I was halfway through writing the check. $10,000. That was my wedding gift to her. My stepdaughter. The girl I raised since she was 5. The girl who once called me dad when monsters crept into her dreams, and she needed someone to chase them away. I didn't even blink when she asked for help. Venue costs, flowers, catering. I was proud to do it. Proud to stand beside her. Proud to give her the kind of wedding she deserved. Hell, I even offered to walk her down the aisle thinking, maybe, just maybe, it would be the final moment that made all the struggle worth it. Then she dropped the bomb. We've decided that my real dad is going to walk me down the aisle. My pen froze above the check. The ink bled slowly into the paper like a wound opening up. Her real dad. The one who disappeared for over a decade. The man who chose a bottle and a busted pickup truck over his own daughter. The man who hadn't shown up for birthdays, graduations, school plays. Hell, the man who didn't even send a card. I raised that girl. I taught her how to ride a bike. I was the one who sat outside her bedroom when she had nightmares. I was the one who spent 3 years working nights and weekends to cover her orthodontics when her mother's insurance didn't. I was the one who paid for her first car. I was the one who held her hand when she cried over her first heartbreak. But suddenly, none of that mattered. He waltzed back into her life with a few charming words and some empty promises. And just like that, I was the ghost in her story. An extra. A placeholder. And you know what? I didn't scream. I didn't rage. I didn't slam a door. I just put the pen down. I looked her in the eyes and I said, then let him pay for it. 14 years earlier, I met her mother at a gas station just outside Phoenix. She was pumping gas into an old Civic that coughed every time she turned the key. Her daughter was in the back seat, no more than 5, with big eyes and tangled hair, colouring in a book that had seen better days. Her mom looked exhausted, the kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders with no help. We talked, we clicked, we fell into a kind of rhythm that felt too perfect, too easy. Within a year, we were living together. 2 years after that, we got married. And from the moment I stepped into that house, I treated her daughter like she was my own. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You take the broken pieces and you hold them together with your own 2 hands, even if it cuts you. Her father had left the picture around the time the girl turned 3. No child support, no phone calls, just a ghost in the wind. I never badmouthed him, not once. I didn't want her to grow up hating anyone. I just wanted her to know love. And I thought, she did. For a long time, she did, until he came back. It started subtly. A few Facebook messages, a phone call here and there. Then, out of nowhere, he wanted to be involved in the wedding. Claimed he was ready to be a father now. As if fatherhood is a switch you flip on when it suits you. I kept my mouth shut, because I figured, hell, maybe this could be good for her. Maybe there was room for more love in her life. But deep down, I knew he'd fail her again. And when she told me he'd be walking her down the aisle, that was my wake-up call, my cue to step back, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. So I did. I told her and her mother that I'd already paid for the deposit on the venue and the caterer, roughly 50% of the total costs. But I wouldn't. Pay another dime. Let him carry the rest. Let her real dad be the hero she wanted so badly. Of course, he vanished again. A week after I withdrew, the man went AWOL. Missed meetings with the planner, ignored calls, claimed work trouble, and money's tight right now. The usual crap. By the time they realized he wasn't going to pay, it was too late. The budget was shredded, the vendors pulled out, and what was meant to be a beautiful wedding turned into a backyard ceremony with a Bluetooth speaker and Costco cupcakes. I didn't go, I didn't call, I didn't even watch from a distance. That chapter was closed. She reached out a few months later, said she missed me, that she was sorry, that she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. But it was too late. Some things, once broken, don't mend. Some choices redraw the map of your life, and there's no going back to where you started. I told her gently, "You made your choice. I hope he was worth it." After I said those words, there was silence. Not the kind that just sits in the room awkwardly, but the kind that settles in your bones. The kind of silence you hear in a hospital corridor at 2 a.m., right after a doctor delivers bad news. My stepdaughter didn't reply right away, but I knew she heard me. She had to. She tried calling again 2 weeks later, and again, a month after that. This time from an unknown number, leaving a voicemail like nothing had ever happened. "Hey, just wondering if you'd like to grab coffee sometime. I'd love to talk." Talk. Talk about what? How it felt to be gut-punched by someone I raised like my own. How she handed a crown to a man who hadn't shown up for 14 years, while I was the one who sat through every parent-teacher conference, every scraped knee, every late-night breakdown. No thanks. I didn't respond. I was busy rebuilding. See, when I pulled out of that wedding, it wasn't just financial. It was spiritual, emotional, like pulling my own heart out of a fire that had burned too long. After the divorce with her mother, because yes, that marriage didn't survive the betrayal either, I had to start over. I sold the house I'd helped renovate for over a decade because it wasn't home anymore. I moved across town into a smaller place, traded square footage for peace of mind, and slowly, life started making sense again. I started seeing someone. Someone who didn't carry ghosts behind her eyes. Someone who didn't treat love like a contract, only valid if you fit the fantasy. She knew my story, every jagged edge of it, and instead of being afraid of the mess, I'll never forget, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You didn't just raise her, you showed her how to be loved. What she did with that is on her." It took 2 years. 2 years of silence, of therapy, of piecing together. A heart that had been shattered in slow motion. 2 years of watching birthdays go by without a message, of not being invited to college milestones, not even a postcard. 2 years of learning that the child you raised like your own can still choose someone else. And that choice doesn't have to define you. It came on a rainy Thursday, one of those days where the sky feels like it's grieving with you. Blocked number. "For some reason," I answered. Her voice was tired, weathered, not the confident, self-assured tone I remembered from that wedding planning season. No, this was different. She asked how I was. I said I was fine. She said she wasn't. Said things hadn't gone the way she expected. Apparently, after the wedding fell apart, her biological dad ghosted her again. Shocking, I know. He'd promised to help pay for the remaining wedding costs, then vanished, deleted his socials, changed his number, just like he did every other time he was needed. She had to borrow money from her mother, my ex-wife, just to pay off vendors and rent. They hadn't spoken since the reception. No wedding photos with him. No toast. No walk down the aisle. Just disappointment wearing a tuxedo. And then she said it. I made a mistake. I told her I appreciated the honesty, but I wasn't the same man anymore. I had nothing left to offer her. Not forgiveness, not friendship, not a second chance at family. That bridge? It wasn't just burned. It had been reduced to ash and swept away by the current. She cried. I didn't, because I had already done my grieving. I had buried that chapter long ago. She asked if we could meet, talk, maybe rebuild something, even if just for old time's sake. I said no, because you don't return to a house that collapsed just to admire the ruins. Because you don't relight a fire that once burned you to the bone. Because family isn't blood, it's loyalty. And loyalty once broken isn't easily repaired. I had given her 14 years of unconditional love, protection, provision, sacrifice. All she gave me in return was an invitation to be replaced. Some people think revenge is loud, but the best kind? The kind that makes them sit alone, years later, whispering, I wish I'd done things differently. That kind of revenge That's art. And me? I'm just the artist who stopped painting her in my future. But I won't lie. There were nights I replayed everything, the dance recitals, the bedtime stories. The first time she called me Dad, not stepdad, not Mum's husband, just Dad. 3 letters that shattered me when she handed them to someone who barely earned a handshake. What hurt wasn't that she chose him. It was that she unchose me, as if everything we built could be replaced by biology. I remember once, when she was 10, she had a fever. Her mum was out of town visiting her sister. It was just me, the thermometer, and a scared little girl wrapped in a blanket. I sat beside her all night with a cold rag, whispering stories from old fables just to keep her calm. She reached out with a trembling hand, gripped my fingers and said, "Don't leave me, Dad," and I never did. Not then, not for a single moment after, until she told me I wasn't needed. That's what they never teach you about being a stepfather. You're always disposable, a stand-in until the real one shows up, no matter how long you carried the weight. And then there's her mother. She played her part too, didn't she? Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The passive comments over the years. She has her father's eyes. He's trying, you know. He was young, made mistakes. No, he made choices, like vanishing for 14 years and showing up just in time for catered cake and photo ops. She never said it outright, but she planted the seeds, maybe hoping the reunion would go well, maybe wishing he'd step up so she could offload the guilt of choosing me over him. Or maybe she wanted to see if the real family could be put back together without me. Either way, she never defended me. Not once during the fallout. I remember the exact moment I knew I was done with both of them. 3 weeks before the wedding, I was up late at the kitchen table going over the final budget. Custom floral arches, photography, designer dress, catering for 120 guests. Her mother walked in, wineglass in hand, leaned against the fridge and said, "Don't take it personally. She just wants to honor her roots." I laughed, not because it was funny, because I'd finally understood. I was the foster parent of her memories, there to nurture, never to own. When the wedding crumbled and the bio dad vanished, again, guess who didn't come crawling back? The mother. She went quiet. Vanished into her new life like the whole disaster never happened. They always say divorce is between 2 people. That's a lie. This one was between me and a family that never truly let me in. So, yeah, I started over, and not in a man finding his light sort of way, more like man climbs out of a grave he didn't dig kind of way. I got a job with a logistics firm, nothing glamorous, but it paid well. I kept my head down, paid off debt, bought a new suit, started saving again, for myself this time. I met someone at a conference, not flashy, not complicated. She asked how many kids I had. I hesitated, then said, "None." And it was true. Now, the girl I raised, she belonged to someone else's last name. It wasn't until a year later that I finally threw away the old photo album, the one with her in pigtails on my shoulders, covered in ice cream, the one where she won her science fair and wrote "Thank you, Dad" on the back of the ribbon. I thought I'd cry when I did it, but I didn't, because grief doesn't always come with tears. Sometimes it comes with clarity. She came back a second time, this time not just calling, but showing up at my job. Receptionist buzzed me with, "There's a woman here asking for you. Says she's your daughter." I didn't go down, didn't even flinch, sent security to tell her I was busy. Because I was. Busy living a life where betrayal no longer had a seat at my table. She burned a bridge I spent 14 years building, all for a man who couldn't even stick around for the wedding toast. I gave her everything. She gave me an ultimatum. And now I've given her silence. It's the only language betrayal respects.